Dan Goldman, let's take these pieces apart one by one, because there's a lot I want to ask you about. First, the raid this morning on Rudy Giuliani's home.
So this raid is very noteworthy, obviously, because of the flip-flop, so to speak, by the Justice Department. But this is really the financial side of the impeachment inquiry, which was the political side. And we were aware of some of these financial shenanigans going on with Giuliani and Tensing and diGenova, but it was just well beyond anything that we were focused on. And the Southern District, however, has been focused on it. And this dovetails a little bit with their case against Lev Parnas and Igor Fruman. The interesting news to me is we've heard a lot about Giuliani search warrants, but this is the search warrant of Victoria Tensing is particularly noteworthy because there was a retainer agreement between Tensing and corrupt Ukrainian officials for the corrupt Ukrainian officials to pay Tensing to effectively do what Giuliani was trying to do related to Ukraine, which was to essentially dig up dirt on Joe Biden. So I think it's all coming to a head now, and we're seeing the final steps of a financial investigation that is the sort of parallel track to the political investigation that we did as part of the impeachment inquiry.
And there are other players who we're all refreshing our collective memories, names like Lev Parnas, but also questions about Bill Barr. I want to reread this line in the New York Times report. The New York Times reports that senior Justice Department officials had not greenlit investigators' efforts to get this warrant. Lisa Monaco has been confirmed for all of 8 days. Merrick Garland, obviously, a little longer. What does that say to you, Dan Goldman, about what was perhaps being squashed at the highest levels of the Justice Department?
Well, there was reporting several months ago that email search warrants were being squashed by Bill Barr, ostensibly because of this 60-day rule, which, Nicole, you'll probably remember Bill Barr frowned upon in his public testimony. But even after that, after the election, Bill Barr tried to squash it. So now we have a new administration who's going by the book. And if there's evidence of a crime and you go through all the proper protocols, given that Giuliani is an attorney, then you get a search warrant. But I will say one other thing, Nicole. I don't think this is the first search warrant that the Southern District would have obtained in this case. My guess is that they already have obtained an email search warrant for Giuliani's emails, which is what was being reported earlier. They could have used the fruits of that search warrant as probable cause to get into his apartment and his office. But it is likely, and we would not know about this unless it was reported, it's quite likely that they got emails from the service providers of Giuliani's email accounts already.
And Pete Strzok, it seems possible that they also, because Lev Parnas is now cooperating, may have his end of his communications with Rudy Giuliani. Pete, let me just play for all of you part of Lev Parnas describing the close collaboration among all the players we've talked about. Let's watch.
Do you know if Mr. Giuliani was ever in contact with Mr. Barr specifically about the fact that he was trying to get Ukraine to announce these investigations into Joe Biden?
Oh, absolutely.
Mr. Barr knew about that?
Mr. Barr had to have known everything. I mean, it's impossible.
Did Rudy Giuliani tell you he'd spoken to the Attorney General specifically about Ukraine?
Not only Rudy Giuliani. I mean, Victoria and Joe, they were all best friends. I mean, Barr was, Attorney General Barr was basically on the team.
So, Pete, I'm going to read this one more time. United States Attorney's Office in Manhattan and the FBI had sought for months to secure search warrants for Mr. Giuliani's phones and electronic devices. Quote, under Mr. Trump, senior political appointees in the Justice Department repeatedly sought to block such a warrant. What do you think the FBI agents were trying to learn? And where do you think the investigation had taken them?
Well, I think the investigation took them to the point where they needed to see as best they could the original communications between Giuliani and others. Typically, Dan's absolutely right. You build up from the ground, and that frequently involves things like subpoenas for financial records. I, too, agree that it's quite likely that there were prior search warrants for email providers. And all these go along, particularly when you're looking at attorneys, you want to use the least intrusive means because there is a higher standard to get a search warrant for an attorney. But the fact of the matter is, what these search warrants show is that a judge found that there was probable cause, that there's evidence of a crime at these locations. And again, my understanding from the reporting coming out just recently is that was Giuliani's home, his office at a separate location, and then at least for Tynsig's phone, and at least recently Tynsig's camp has made some indication that they were looking for communications between her and John Solomon, a reporter who used to work for The Hill, who published a great deal of disinformation actually, about Ukraine. And so it tells me that the investigators are at the point, and actually last summer, were at the point where they were ready to get this information, had probable cause to get this information, and had to sit and wait essentially for a year until they were able to get a hold of it.
Hey, thanks for watching our YouTube channel. You should know that you can follow today's top stories and breaking news and catch up on your favorite MSNBC shows all in one place. Download the NBC News app today.